Yesterday we heard some really interesting conversations about the rapidly changing patterns and behaviors of sports fans, largely due to the way that technology has changed how sport can be consumed and digested, above all, for the younger up-and-coming generations. Sport is, after all, a form of entertainment for many, which is why the football industry is not alone when trying to drum up new creative ways of captivating audiences of all ages. The entertainment biz is also a very important factor in all of this. They have a very important role to play as well, and not just in parallel, but at the same time in unison. So we'll hear now from experts in the field in partnership with Summa about a brand new era, why sport and entertainment needs a new, refreshed look. And it has to do with concepts such as digital transformation, the power of storytelling, and the ever-evolving role of fan engagement. So please give it up for our next speakers, Nadia Ben Mokhtar, Head of Brand Development at Paris Saint-Germain, back once more for us on day 2. Uriel Querol, CEO of Kings and Queens League at Cosmos Holding, Kike Levy, Sports Advisor, and last but not least, your moderator, Joan Mendoza, Head of Sports and Entertainment at Summa. Joan, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for being here today. It's a pleasure to be conducting this amazing panel where we'll talk about the need of this renewed and refreshed look within the sport entertainment industry. An industry that forces you, in a way, to constantly innovate and evolve, trying to find new revenue streams, making your community grow. Modern sport brands, in a way, need to be prepared to enter new categories in order to, as I said, to make the community grow, to find new sources of revenue, and to drive tangible impact that expands the brand's meaning beyond sport. I'm going to start with you, Nadia. Good morning. PSG, you mentioned yesterday that PSG wants to be a reference in football, but a sport brand beyond football. What's the approach of PSG in order to achieve that? Why is it different from other clubs? And also, how do you manage the tension between being attractive to a local community and also be attractive to a global community?
Sure, thank you. Hello, everyone. So yes, as I said yesterday, we really tried to reach 2 objectives, which is to be, of course, a very performing team on the field, but to become a global brand and a global reference of the field. And to achieve this, we are really capitalizing on what is Paris and what are the values of Paris, because Paris is the city of art and fashion and culture. So our idea is really to embody those values, to have specific collabs and specific actions beyond soccer. So yeah, we are partnering with fashion brands, artists, to really create a different product. So of course you still have your core products, performance products, which are your jerseys, but you also are able to develop a large range of new ideas, of new products. And it was funny because yesterday I went to the Sevilla FC shops, which is super good, but you can see that it's really football and performance only. If you visit the PSG store, of course you have this core performing range, but then you will be able to find some fashion pieces, collab with Levi's, Coche, Dior, and you have this whole ecosystem that we are a sports brand, but also a global brand. So how we are doing this, it's also about identifying who could be our key partners. As an example, we went to Japan recently, so who is the coolest brand in Japan? Who is the trendy fashion designer then? And let's create concepts together, and that's why we collaborate with Verdi, Futura, G-Dragon, the K-pop artist, to try to build unique products all together. So that's really attractive on the international stage, but as you say, you always need to find the right balance between your local roots, your local community, and your core French Parisian fans, and the international stage. So if you take the example of the jersey, like, don't touch the home jersey, follow the club's historical guideline, follow the blue, white, and red color, and keep your own identity on this one. And then you can enjoy the third and the fourth jersey to be more creative and innovative and target the international stage. And in that environment, the Jordan collab was, let's say, an important milestone. Now it's seen like a super good idea and a real reference, but it was a real risk at the beginning because our core fans were like, we are not a basketball team. So you need to find the right balance between respect who you are, your own identity, keeping this Eiffel Tower on the jersey and respect Paris values, but also being creative and innovative at the international stage. So yeah, that's the aim. And for future, keeping this creativity, keep this way to push boundaries, but also respecting our Parisian identity.
So interesting in terms of how you, as you mentioned, how you balance this authenticity and being authentic to your roots, to your identity, and how can we make this community grow and connect also with this new generation of fans, young audience, in terms of new territories and new categories. Talking about new audiences and this next generation of fans, I'm going to move to Uriol. The Kings League has been a phenomenon. It's been less than a year, but it has happened a lot of things. The Kings League has grown a lot, been very, very attractive to this new generation of fans. What learnings have you had during this period of time? What are the main challenges and opportunities, and what's the strategy for growth for the Kings League?
In our case, it's also a matter of balance, actually, because it's not the same balance, but in our case, we are trying to balance something which we knew it would work if it was good, which is football in itself. It's obviously the base in which we stand, but obviously we need to balance it with the things that make us unique, or that we try for it to make us unique, which is all the layers that we are adding in terms of the show, the conflicts between the owners and the teams, all the rules that we have changed, all the access that we have granted to the ultimate client of ours, which is the people who watch the show. In our case, it's very simple because we try to be faithful to the idea that made us think about the Kings League in the first place, which is we saw that for some generation it was getting, in some cases at least, more and more difficult to watch a game for 90 minutes in which a long stretches of time can go by with nothing happening, in a game that can end up 0-0 in a draw, which doesn't happen on the Kings League, on other sports. All of this took us to a process in which we thought that we do approach in two different ways. The first one was the football itself. How can we change things in the biggest entertainment in the world, but to make it more appealing to younger audiences? And most of the decisions that we made were made in terms of approaching more the video games than the traditional sports itself. We have secret weapons, we have a lot of things happening in the middle of the game that changes the dynamics of what's happening and allows us to be sure that every 3 or 4 minutes something will change and will keep the retention of the audience. And the second one is the access. One of the things that we kept listening and that we kept experiencing in the world of football is this difficulty to access the players, the characters, to be able to reach the stories that we are interested in. And we've, I think, broken that barrier in some senses because we obviously have cameras everywhere. Our characters, which the main ones are not the players, are the owners of the team, which happen to be some of the biggest influencers in the Spanish-speaking community in the world. They are not only not avoiding the conflict and the exposure, but embracing it. So everything that we are doing goes around them. All that drama and all the stories that unfold inside the Kings League are the base of everything that happens then during the weekend, and we have shows during the week that fuel the rivalries for the weekend, and what happens in the weekend fuels the interest of the shows that we're doing in the week. So it's a wheel that we keep turning in base, always keeping the look on these two main aspects. How can we make the game more fun, more engaging, and how can we make sure that things happen all the time, and how can we give more and more access to the audience?
So, what's the horizon for the Kings League, at least in a short, mid-term? I mean, what are the plans to evolve? Because it's a very evolving proposal, constantly, I wouldn't say changing, but yes, evolving. So, what's the the short-term, mid-term horizon for the Kings League?
It's only been 9 months. It looks to us like a lot longer because it's been an incredible journey for 9 months. But we know very well that we have grown so fast because of the habits of the audience that we're aiming. So they are able to put you up there in a short space and a short amount of time. But obviously, it goes all the way around, right? So we are convinced that the reason why we may continue to be as relevant as we are is that we will be evolving continually. And one of the evolutions that we are going to embrace is the expansion. Mm-hmm. We have already announced the Kings League Americas, which will be launched in November, and that will start competing in January. And that is the main focus for us right now, to build an ecosystem that is international and that to keep opening leagues in different places. We need a couple of things to happen for us to be able to open a league. One of them is that we need strong ties to football. We need a lot of players. We need a lot of football fans, obviously, and that happens in a lot of places. But we also need a streaming ecosystem, which doesn't happen everywhere. So we are trying to find places in which these two things coexist, and that we think that might be a good ground for it to grow. We think Americas will be a really big project, and since it will be Spanish-speaking, it will coexist a lot very well with the Spanish one. So that's our main focus right now.
It's very interesting the way you talk about this relationship between fans and players, streamers, the conversations that may arise. And this leads me to Kike. I want to ask you, because you've been involved in the sport and media industry for a long time. From your perspective, in terms of content, in terms of community engagement, what's your perspective? What has changed in the last years, and what do you foresee it's coming in terms of content creation, relationship with fans and brands?
Well, I would say that what has changed in the last months. Because
exactly.
I challenge everybody to take the phone and look on Google and say, how was Instagram in 2015? I remember when I joined Twitter 11 years ago, there was no video on the platform. The first video product that we had was Vine, which was square 6-second looping videos, where a lot of creators were born that now have success. So talking about years, it's talking about prehistory. Riol just mentioned the Kings League. It seems like it's been around forever, and it's been just 9 months. I think there has been a strong change in the last year, and especially in 2020 with the disruption of platforms like TikTok. The main change is that with the development of artificial intelligence and how content is evolving, the distribution of the content in the platform is not anymore reliant so much on what we would call the social graph, so the people that follow you and the people that you follow. But it changed into a distribution more based on the interest graph. So you get into the platform and you start seeing content that is interesting for you, no matter if you are following or not. And that's a huge shame, because it shapes the way you need to put together your content strategy. Because now you have to live with new audiences. How can I reach new audiences through people that may be interested in the content that I'm posting? and at the same time I have to engage the existing audiences. The disruption of short form video has been incredible. The vertical short form video for me is now the format, and you know, TikTok, Instagram Reels, Snapchat, Stories. One mistake that I always say that a lot of people make is that they look at platforms as a single product, but in reality, within one platform, let's say Instagram, you have a lot of products because you have stories, you have the feed, you have Reels, you have live, and you have to create a content strategy for every product, and depending on your goals, you will use one product or the other. I think that has been the biggest change. Where it will go, it's hard to say, but I think messaging and one-to-one communication will play a key role in the near future in the digital strategy of any sport organization. WhatsApp just announced the launch of WhatsApp channels, and it's a one-way communication to connect with your audience. Instagram also launched broadcast channels, which allow people to maybe subscribe to a channel and receive all the communication. So those are products that, for me, are meant to engage with your core audience. So you will have, as I said, two strategies. One, to reach new audiences with short-form content and trying to reach people that may be interested in your content. And another one, more based on messaging, on one-to-one communication, to go deeper into the relationship that you have with the audience. And I think football has a unique opportunity because there's no content or no product that can bring so many people together. You know, if PSG has been able to bring a basketball brand with football together, I think there's few sports that can allow that to happen. Same with the Kingsley. You're bringing football and gaming. You know, so I think the football industry in general has a huge opportunity to bridge those, to close those gaps between different industries, and at the end make the audience the interest in football bigger.
That's so interesting as well. It has this potential that football industry has to, as you mentioned, to close these bridges, and also to make people start conversations with also athletes and clubs. So it's not it's a bi-directional relationship between brands and fans, and this is a clear example on, for instance, the Kings League, or also other football clubs who started like opening up new channels for and new opportunities for conversation. Nadia, I had a question that for me, like the recent events of PSG. PSG has invested in top players over the last years, and now with the departure of Messi and Neymar, which are some of the best players of the world, how, from a brand perspective, how do you manage this situation, ensuring that the brand still being attractive to people and is a drive for new revenue streams, etc.? How do you manage from a brand perspective the loss of the Messi or Neymar in this case?
For sure, we are entering into a new era, let's say. We are very proud for the past, being able to attract such iconic players than Ronaldinho, David Beckham, Neymar, and Messi, and for sure, they helped the club to reach new heights, to put PSG on the map on a brand perspective, but also on the field to reach a lot of national title and European finals. And so we are very proud of this, but now let's say that we are entering a new phases, moving from the bling bling positioning to a more young and French positioning. And why? Because first, the French national team has so many talented players that we need to focus on them. And Parisian area is the area in the world that is raising the highest number of professional players. Before Sao Paulo used to be the first, and Paris is now the first. So we need to focus on this. we need to attract the young, most talented players in our roster and trying to build a team that is the right mix between French and international players, but all very committed to the club and, as I said, proud to wear this Eiffel Tower logo on the jersey. And from a brand perspective, of course, when Messi leaves, you know that a lot of people now are following players and not clubs. So you know that you will lose some fans, but at the end, if you manage to build a super attractive brand and to have this commitment from the fan, the more your brand and your club identity will be strong, the less you will be impacted by the players that are leaving the project. So that's, again, to find the right balance. And okay, Messi and Neymar will leave us, but if we continue to be good in delivering a great fan experience in the stadium, to create innovative content on our platforms, and to just provide the fans with good experience and relationship, then most of them will stay with us. So yeah, you're right, we changed the positioning in the bracket, but at the end we still want to be innovative, pushing the limit, take risk, and be a trailblazer in creating new trends. So that's our core identity, and now the players will embrace it. And that's always the point that no players should be stronger than the club, but we know that some players are so strong that they are stronger than everything. But keeping this idea of the clubs need to be the first priority.
Well, that's the power of having a strong brand identity in order to not depend on top players or that come and go. So at the end, people connect with the story and the narrative that you want to tell to people, right? Being an attractive, having a strong brand identity promotes and helps you to attract brands, right? Because sponsors, right? They want to join your initiative. Kings League, Uriol, I think you're doing a great job on that sense. The way you attract a lot of different kind of sponsors and the way you interact with them. What's your perspective from a brand point of view? This relationship between sponsors in terms of brand activation that adds value to the proposal. What's your approach on that?
In our case, there are two main things I think attract sponsors. The first one is that our content is free to air. All of it, it is, and it will always be streamed on platforms. The platforms may change, but not the fact that it will be free. We now stream on Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. We have agreements with the different platforms, and we stream in all of them. Our presidents have the ability to stream in their own channels and their own platforms, and they have the freedom to do so. And that allowed us from the beginning to have a huge reach, because obviously we are reaching different communities. Every single community of every single streamer that joined us brings different audiences in, and not all of them overlap. That's the first reason, that it's free, it's really accessible. And the second one is that not all of it, but most of our audience is really young, which is obviously a target that is so wanted for some of the brands, for most of the brands. And if you put those two things combined, and the fact that we have been, I think, able to create new forms of activation that maybe in traditional football were not possible because of the fact that everything is so standard, because it has to be, right? And in our case, it's not. We can decide something on a show on Friday night, and it will happen on Saturday in a game, and it has happened. And not only we decide things that can happen in the same week, but we make the audience vote for it. We just changed last week the color of the pitch, which will be black from January on in all the leagues that we launch, and including the Spanish one. We will have a black pitch, which hasn't happened, I think, in football. I don't know. In other sports, of course, now the World Padel Tour, I think it's playing in black artificial grass, and we will do the same. So that's an example of something that was decided by the audience. We put the options to vote, and they decided black, and we will go for it. And that freedom that we have to make it happen, to make something happen fast and as we like, is obviously very attractive to sponsors as well. We have had traditional kind of activations in terms of the branding that you see in any other sports event, but we have had activations like one with Netflix that we did a couple of months ago for a movie that was called Extraction, which was about someone taking someone out of a country, and we had characters of the movie just coming and taking the players out, and that was an activation that obviously cannot happen in traditional football, but we did it, and I could put you a lot of examples of things that we can do because of the format, and also things that become assets because of the fact that they exist. We have a cage that launches the ball at the beginning of the game instead of the traditional kickoff on a normal football game. That's an asset that didn't exist if you didn't do the cage thing, right? So, and that applies to several examples. And the other thing is that since everything is digital and we are using the different tools that the different platforms bring to us, we have things that may not be possible in in a TV broadcast on another streaming platform. On Twitch, for example, we can use the chat, which for some non-Twitch users may seem a little thing, but it's really powerful because you can activate and there's a link there that everyone has, and you can redirect the people to the link and a call to action. So there are a lot of things that we can do because of the fact that we do whatever we want. And because we are outside of the regulatory establishment, right? So no one tells us what to do or what we can or we cannot do. So that's how we deal with this. And we have launched the Kings League in a moment in history, I would say, in which brands, I think, have already shifted and have already understood that this is already mainstream. We at Cosmos had have a esports club that has been around for a couple of years. And I remember at the beginning, 2 years ago, that you had to convince the brand that this was not a layer that was not accessible to everyone, that it was just for gamers, that it was just for really young people just watching streamers online. Now it's not like this anymore. It's really mainstream. We have obviously younger audiences, but we have people from much younger and much older watching the Kings League. We have families coming to our events. And so I think this movement that has become mainstream, thanks in part to the big streamers obviously out there, not only because of the Kings League, has had this effect on brands that now see this as one of the mainstream platforms.
Sure. That's a very interesting point as well in terms of what I was asking about sponsorship and activation. It's because, and this perhaps could be like a shared question for all of you guys. It's like everyone wants to connect and engage a young audience, this next generation of fans, which are very young. But there is this tension between engaging and connecting with this audience, with this next generation of fans, and monetizing sometimes, right? Because it's like a community that, in terms of share wallet, it's not like, I guess sponsorship is a way to solve this tension. What other ways do you think could be interesting to explore? What's your thinking, your approach to solve this tension in terms of engaging a very young community and monetizing them? Kike, for example.
I think the tension is not on the monetization itself. It's more an accounting tension, especially in more traditional sports organizations. So think about a football club. How important is digital platforms in the sponsorship contracts? And how much of the sponsorship deal is attributed to digital platforms? So I think you have to differentiate between direct revenue stream and indirect revenue stream and allocate it properly. Because if you think about Kingsley or what you offer to sponsor, it's all a digital product. So all your monetization, all your business is the foundation is the distribution on digital. So I think the sponsorship, obviously, the branded content is the biggest opportunity that brands have in the sport industry. PSG is doing a great job on creating that content and building that identity with Paris. And we touch on two things that are key, and I think it's going to be where the industry needs to look and how we can start monetizing. One is participation, this is something that digital platform has been really good at, that to give the option for the audience to participate and make decisions. And we see that when audiences are participating, they are more engaged. And the second one is how you're using your biggest assets, which are in the case of a football team, your players, or in the case of the Kids League, the president, the streamers, how you use your talent to distribute the content. Because young audiences connect in general better with people than with brands. So when you follow this, I always say that it's hard to find a football team that doesn't have at least one player that has more followers than the team itself. So to the point of saying we need to work on the brand, because it's, no player can be bigger than the brand. If you look at the number of followers, in the majority of the cases, it's the case. I think in PSG, for example, Mbappé, I'm sure has more followers than PSG itself. But you have to do really good work on tell your story and build your brand through the talent and through the people that are on your brand. So in the future, I think sponsorship will need to evolve from not just creating content and using your profile, but also relying on your talent to tap into new market. Yesterday, when we were hearing at the Saudi Pro League panel, Peter Hatton mentioned that one of the key priorities and one of the strategic pillars of the evolution of the league is to use the players to grow the league and distribute content through the players. And if you go into a more traditional industry like football with the TV deals, that it's complicated. So I think the evolution will come slowly. TV deals will start adapting, and we will see more content coming from players and than from the brand itself.
Sure.
I think one of the main challenges, I think that there, at least in the area where we work with the younger audiences and streaming, and I know it's very specific, but since we are discussing this, two main steps I think have to occur for the sponsorship to be successful. The first one is, I think, the one I mentioned earlier, which is understanding the world you are entering, which is already mainstream for some of your clients or your target, and not treat it like something very local, very specific, very niche. Once you've done that, the second step for me, which is very difficult at some points, and we have found this, and examples on both sides, is to understand that the activation, we always say, have to be organic. It's a word that we always hear, and it's very easy to say, but very difficult to sometimes to understand from the brand side, because obviously they have a message to deliver, and they think that the best way to deliver that message is just to straightforward deliver that message by some of the persons that they think that the audience will follow, and it usually doesn't work like that. So the way in which you adapt to what's already happening, and what's already happening now, I'm just mentioning the Kings League, but there are several other examples, it needs to be in a way that doesn't create a conflict with the user, right? And it usually happens, because if you are watching the Kings League and there's something happening because of a brand and that is not allowing me to enjoy the content, that is a failure for the brand, and it is not for anyone, not good for anyone. The best examples that we have had in terms of activation obviously mentioned the brand, or the brand was present, but it was not ever straight linked to the message that the brand wanted to deliver. We have fun, creative ways to do it, and in a way that doesn't affect the content and that doesn't create a problem for the audience. That's, I think, the main challenge.
Yeah, the key is to integrate the brand within your content, not just take the content that the brand has created and post it in your channels.
Yeah,
and
that's very easy to say, but that's
it's hard.
sometimes
It's
very hard to
hard.
understand on the other side.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and you have brands that say, no, I want the content with my logo here, and it's difficult, and I think that's the conversation that you need to have with the brand. And then slowly, I think brands are becoming more sophisticated about it, and they are not so obsessed about seeing the brand but getting integrated more naturally. And collaboration you've done with Nike, for example, it's a great example. So how you bring basketball and football together, you created new category, absolutely.
That's the key thing, is that before monetize it, you need to really understand what are the expectations of the new generation, how you will reach them. And so you know that they want entertainment, they want not to be bored, they want commitments from the club, they want real legacy and real commitment. So as soon as you have understand that, then you can speak to them. And as you said, you need to use the right channel with the right content. And PSG is the #1 club on TikTok now, which is really the target of this youth generation of fans, even if we are not the first on Facebook and Instagram. And as soon as you have built this huge community of young followers, then the sponsors will consider you as a media to reach them. So that's when you will monetize it. So American Express want to launch a new credit card for youth. They will know that PSG could be the right channel to deliver their message. So that's when you will create a positive cycle between fans, because you will answer their expectation and they are happy for this. You as a club, and sponsors are brands. So.
I think we are running out of time. I think there's a lot of interesting things here. We at Summa, as a branding company, we focus a lot on, we understand that brands mostly are identities, of course, and we need to build this narrative, this purpose, and also like having strong and attractive visual identities. But we focus a lot on experience, because brands are experiences, brands are communities, to understand what their motivation is, how can we connect with them. And all of this fueled by innovation. So all of what you have said today, it's very inspiring, and it reinforces the idea that the sport and entertainment industry is shifting very, very quick, and it's evolving, and it's constantly challenging you to innovate and to connect. So thank you very much for being here today. It's been a pleasure to have you, and thank you all for being here today as well. And see you soon, I guess, in some other time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.